Good evening, everyone. We'll just give a few minutes to have others join in. You're welcome to the seat. This is the 6th episode, and we'll be addressing rigging, mitigating electoral process manipulation. Keletumba is my name, and in a few minutes I'll be introducing our anchor for tonight. Thank you for joining. It's also a good place to share, to get others to listen in to this very interesting topic, which at this time seems to be or would likely be the main challenge or the only challenge we will be having against good governance. We'll have the experts speak to us later on, so they would, clarify, they would shed more light, let us know if there are plans in place, if there are policies in place, if there are thoughts in place, if there are things that we can do as the citizenry to ensure that the electoral process is not manipulated in any form. It may be naive to say that it won't be manipulated in any form, because of course politics, not just in Nigeria but in different parts of the world, have had this particular issue plague them. But I also want to believe that there is a way out at every point in time. The seat is a good governance initiative of the workplace women. Tonight we'll be having as our anchor Chinwe Odibwegu. Chinwe Odibwegu is a lawyer, an arbitrator, a mediator, mediation advocate, chartered secretary, trainer, and notary public for Nigeria. Currently the legal director of a multinational firm, name to be withheld. Tonight, Chinwe, if you can hear me, please get us on this interesting conversation. From here.
Okay, hello everyone again. My name is Chinwe Odibwegu, legal practitioner, arbitrator, mediator, and a few other things. I'm happy to moderate today's session, and today's topic is rigging, so mitigating electoral process manipulation. As you know, Workplace Women has a target to empower women for the workplace, considering what is now the future of work. And we've been having these weekly sessions every Thursday at 7 p.m. called The Seat, and we're addressing different topics. And like I said earlier, today's topic has to do with rigging, so electoral fraud and all that. Let me introduce our speakers. So I was looking at the profiles of our speakers and trying not to get intimidated. Very powerful people, and we thank you all for joining. So with your permission and permission of the speakers, I will just, make just one or two sentences about them. Their profiles will be made available. You can find online, and then when they're speaking, they'll be able to say a bit more about themselves. So, in no particular order, I would introduce Ambassador Roy Oamian. He is the Group CEO, August I Limited, the Into Security HR outsourcing background checks. He's also the chairman of Chris Helm Ventures Limited. Welcome, Ambassador Roy. Can admin make Ambassador a speaker so that he can respond, and make all our speakers able to speak to us this evening? We also have Mr. Timi Olagunju, who is a tech lawyer, public policy and corporate affairs professional, youth leader, and author. We have Mr. John Juno, who is an entrepreneur, business development strategist, actor, evangelist, social activist, and convener of Peter Obi Massive Support Initiative. We're also to have Ifeanyi Chukwu Agbazie, educationist, politician, and Labour Party chairman, City Center Ward, Abuja. So welcome again. May I recognize the convener of Workplace Women, Kelechi Charles Mba, and the co-conveners, Ruth Igbe and Shola Odende. Okay, welcome everyone. So let's get into the discussion. So can we start with you, Timmy? Okay, so Timmy, thank you. I'd like you to just introduce yourself again and, tell us a bit about, just define rigging. So electoral fraud, what is it about? And what has been our experience in Nigeria so far?
Okay, all right, thank you. Well, I'm interestingly, I'm Timmy Olagunju, although not, never been an INEC staff at any time. But then I have, I have, except when we're co-opted during NYSC. I think that was 2010, 2011. But most importantly, right, is the fact that I've worked in the civic space for a number of years in the intersection of youth policy, and you cannot work in that intersection and not have something to do with, electioneering, particularly in a democratic regime or transition, as it were. And so basically I'll be bringing in my experiences in that context in answering the question. Now for me, rigging basically is, thwarting the express will of the people. And sometimes we've seen in Nigeria in terms of instances where rigging is not even done in terms of manipulating the results, but also preventing people from being able to exercise their democratic rights, as well as what I have termed systematic rigging, where we have a situation where, for example, the way the whole process is, it doesn't accommodate the realities and the practicalities of the times. So one of such examples is the fact that there's a lot of rural-urban migration, right? And that happens a lot with the elites. So a young person lives where they're born and go school somewhere else. Perhaps that's the first time they ever get a PVC. And then from there, go serve somewhere else. Some people, that's the first time they ever get a PVC, and then find it extremely very difficult to be able to change their PVC 3 years down the line when they need to vote elsewhere because of the fact that they had to move. So that difficulty itself and instances of difficulty in people being able to exercise their rights in a democracy itself can be termed systematic rigging in that sense. So those are some of the point of view that I might be coming in with. Thank you so much. I remain Timmy Olagunju for having this conversation.
Wow, Timmy, such a super introduction. Thank you very much, Timmy. Before I come back to you, Timmy, I like the way you defined electoral fraud and systematic rigging. You didn't just talk about the action, also address the impact. It is people's express rights, and I think that's a really good way of explaining it, because I guess the way things have been done in our country, I guess it's easy to trivialize rigging. So thanks for that. I'm coming back to you, Timmy, with another question. So I want to quote something that Professor Mahmood Yakubu, the INEC chairman, said, he underlined his pledge while delivering a report on the electronic transmission of results in the 2022 Ekiti and Osun Governorship elections. And he said this very firmly. He said, I can confidently state that the days of wanton manipulation of election results are clearly over. It's a wonderful assertion. What are your thoughts, Timmy? And I'm sure I'd like to hear from other speakers on this same quotes that I've gotten from Professor Mahmood Yakubu. And I don't think there's anything wrong with the what's it called? Would I call it a goal? But I mean, for him to have said, I can confidently state that the days of wanton manipulation of election results are clearly over. Do you get a sense that INEC, or Nigeria generally has reached that point where we can make this assertion? Timmy, please share your thoughts while we wait for others.
Yeah, hello. So basically, my point in this regard is the fact that confidence is good, because those kind of words are important to come from INEC, but then there's a very thin line between confidence and overconfidence.
Can you repeat that?
And that's where the challenge lies, right? Now, it may seem like the statement of the INEC of INEC in that sense, because he's representing INEC in that context, has spread to the levels of overconfidence. And this is the reason. There are a lot of reasons, but I'll just give a few to allow the other speakers share their thoughts as well. One is the fact that in those elections he mentioned as instances, right? That's what we call random sampling, right? In research or statistical frameworks, and those sample size are not enough, right, for that kind of overconfidence in the system. You must have had a series of elections, right, to be able to fit into that sample size that you can then now boost on certain empirical facts or conclusions on. That's one key point. Second key point is the fact that when you look at the issue of vote buying, in those elections there were allegations of vote buying, both from the ruling party itself and even from other parties. But the point there I want to drive at, why I said the ruling party, will come to the third point, which is the fact that you all know that INEC is still tied to the apron string of, because he who pays the piper dictates the tune. And so the funding for INEC itself, where INEC's funding comes from, is still an institutional challenge. That's a policy issue that needs to be dealt with. Until INEC is properly free, INEC is free to an extent that the presidency does not impose or try to smuggle in people of questionable character. People like Loretta Onoche, who has clearly become a basis, right, for the study of misinformation and disinformation globally in Oxford and MITs of this world as examples, right? And sneaking such persons with, such political views, which they have a right to, into an INEC body that is unbiased itself, goes to an extent as examples of the fact that INEC is not totally free, right? And so until INEC is totally free, right, and the ruling party itself, whoever it is, does not have a stake or a say, an influence on what INEC's framework or progress or personnel should be, then the chairman cannot then delve into that realm of confidence to say indeed the elections will be free and fair. Because, in rounding off, elections free and fair, it's not just enough to say elections are free and fair and that the votes count, but it must be there must be undeniable trust in the INEC empire as being a body that is not going to or has a possibility of tainted. That is not where we are at the moment. And so it is delving into the realm of overconfidence to speak in that light. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much, Timmy. So, Timmy, the two things. This point about he who pays the piper dictates the tune. Breaking it down into two things you said about the ruling party still being in charge and therefore would influence INEC. My question to you, and this is just plain devil's advocate, is, the judiciary is under wages or salary from the government as well. But the judiciary has to be independent and impartial, right? The president's role, people in government, they earn from the government, but the ethics of those professions or roles expect that there should be impartiality, right? Duty to the people of Nigeria. So I would say to you, is this a case of he who pays the piper, considering that ethics and the duties, obligations of each of those positions require independence? And even from the name, independent, INEC is, the I in INEC is for independent. Are we supposed to assume that INEC would flow with every ruling party once they come in? And when you say until they are totally independent, do you suggest that INEC should now become a private organization funded by, is it private companies or individuals? I'm not sure. Or the reporting structure should be So I'll challenge you on that, playing devil's advocate. So let's go to John Dunu. Like I said earlier, John is an entrepreneur, business development strategist, actor, evangelist, social activist, convener, Peter Obi Massive Support Initiative. So I'll throw the same question to you, John. Still, in connection with what I asked Timmy earlier. Are we in the space in Nigeria where we can say that electoral fraud is over and that the coming elections would be free of such fraud and rigging? Are you there?
All right, I'm here, Chinwe. Thank you for the opportunity. Yeah, like you rightly introduced, my name is John Dunu. I'm the regulator, and well, to an extent is yes, and to an extent is no. Because if we could see stuffs like in the past weeks and months, the observation where we observe some names and some, I can just call them characters that are not existing being found on the INEC portal as people that will be voting. That is the aspect we can say no, that we are not totally free from the election fraud and stuff. But on the aspect where we can say yes is the beavers, transmission of the results electronically. That is the aspect we can say yes on, right? So,
George, you want to shed more light on that when you say we're free in that aspect? What's giving you that confidence? Is it the technological backing or what? What's giving you that confidence?
Absolutely, the technological backing, like you rightly indicated. Because previously you find people, I wouldn't call them the people we elected, but people they selected for us because they know that we are opposing them. What we see is they come snatch the ballots and they go to a corner and thumbprint on massive ballot papers and count them and indicate that they are, in fact, they announce themselves as the winners. But this time around, as we are voting, the result is being transmitted electronically. I think we can give INEC kudos on that aspect. We are not where we are supposed to be, but we are heading somewhere, and we are not where we used to be. INEC has really, really done tremendously on that aspect. Just like the previous speaker indicated, INEC is not free at the moment. INEC is not free until the point INEC is free. That is until the point INEC becomes totally free from being appointed. You see the INEC chief being appointed by the president and all the commissioners being appointed by the president. Until the point that those stuffs stop happening, INEC, we wouldn't say that we are free from elections, malpractices, and rigging and frauds. All right. So
thank you, John. Let me ask you, John. Yeah. So, this technology you're speaking about. So, kudos to INEC based on what you've said. Or are you saying that the technological system or the whatever has been put in place is free of manipulation? Perfect, free of manipulation, and therefore, what we need to sort out is what is fed into the system at that level. But once it goes into the system, it cannot be manipulated. Is that what you're saying?
Pretty much, yes. I may not be an IT guru, but to an extent, we are judging from what INEC told us and what we have researched and found out that during the elections, there would not be, or there is no possibility of maybe escalating or exaggerating or increasing the numbers of the people that were accredited, because it's only the people that were accredited that would have the opportunity to vote, and the people that vote, and those are the people that voted, and are the people that will be counted. If you were not accredited, there's no way you can vote. So to an extent, it's a yes.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you. You made some points, and you actually agree with Timmy that the I in INEC is questionable. So INEC is not independent. INEC is not free. So let's go to other countries and tell me the electoral organizations or offices. I mean, how are they structured, and what do you recommend for INEC to be actually independent or free? So I'll hear from Timmy and come back to you, John. So Timmy or John, whoever can speak first, when you say INEC is not free, INEC is not independent, and that is part of the problem or the major problem, what are your recommendations? How do you see that we'll get to change that if it really is indeed the problem?
I think I would recommend even the police. Sorry, I may not be deviating from what we were talking about. When you see the president, the commander in chief of the armed forces, or the president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, he's the one appointing, like, the police chief, he's the one appointing all the service chiefs and stuffs. They are not really independent. INEC is being paid by the executive, and the INEC boss is being appointed by the executive. So I think I would want to see a Nigeria where INEC will be totally free. I may not pinpoint a certain country that did it the way I would want us to do it in Nigeria, but of course we in Nigeria, we believe that we are one step ahead. Of course we are ahead, regardless the fact that leadership in Nigeria is really pressing the necks of the electorate, the necks of the citizen, so the people we voting, eventually we find that these people have turned to be our enemies. During campaigns, they come around and say, vote for me, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. But when you vote for them, they now turn out to be the people that will have all the security you are talking about. They are the people, and we the citizens, we don't have security, just like what is happening. You see, the people you just voted in, they become the people that go up and down with sirens, and you, the citizen that voted them in, you become vulnerable, So this is totally unacceptable and unfair. All right. So I would want to see a Nigeria where if INEC is being independent, if INEC should be independent, I think we can have it in the constitution, channeled in the constitution, how the INEC boss will emerge and not necessarily being appointed by the president. I may be suggesting that the person should, obviously is in the constitution, be of a certain character, and but not necessarily being appointed by the president. If I may say, it can equally go by elections. And when you say by elections, you are also bringing politics into INEC. So I think we have some brilliant people in Nigeria where we can think out. We form a think tank on how to really, really, really make INEC independent. I mean, totally independent. But as for this moment, I promise you, INEC is not independent. But they are trying. They are really, really trying to be independent. But we are not there yet.
Okay, Nigeria and her problems. Thank you very much, John. I heard your suggestion, and I want to imagine that this may be a long-term solution if it is at all. And then we have elections in February 2023. So I would really like to hear what can we do. So you've talked about the structure, the position, who pays INEC, who's in charge of appointing these officers, and the influence from whatever ruling party there is. Okay, so let's hear what are the other solutions. So Ifeanyi Chukwu, who is one of our speakers who had introduced as educationist, politician, and Labour Party chairman, City Centre Ward, Abuja. His comment is, from the topic of discussion, election rigging starts from the point of registration of Nigerians. For example, INEC will register underage people for elections, and there will be registration of foreigners. Yeah. So these are do we call them the non-eligible voters who now get on voters register? So that now kind of puts an issue to what John talked about around once you are verified and get into the system or accredited. So now the question, the point Ifeanyi Chukwu is making is INEC has in the past kind of like accredited or registered underage people and foreigners. So you see a lot of names, and these names actually belong to people who are not eligible to vote. So he's saying that that's one of the things that needs to be dealt with. Okay, Timmy, I'd like to hear from you in terms of solution. The question I asked earlier of, okay, so if we're suggesting something that should be done regarding the issues you raised, what case in points do you have? Okay, what country? I don't want to mention any country, but where has it been done? You know, where the independence or freedom of the electoral body is in place and there's no issue? Because really, for me, and speaking as a lawyer, you know, where my profession is, and of course Tim, you're a lawyer as well, is based on ethics. So he who pays the piper dictates the tune is not something that is applicable to the legal profession per se, and the judiciary, for instance. So the judiciary is an arm of the government, but a judge is supposed to be impartial. So whether the government comes as a party before the courts, the judge is supposed to be impartial. So is that not supposed to be what INEC is supposed to do, regardless of who pays? So is this a problem about the structure, or a problem around the individuals and the culture that we've seen over time? So Timmy, thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, thanks for your point. Culture, not politics, determines the success of any system, you know, nation as it were. But politics can change the culture and deliver it from itself. Now, when we talk about politics, we're talking of the policy framework around it. And one of the key things is the fact that as much as we talk about the culture, right, we also must talk about the institutions, which is the fact that firstly, you see, the same way that the judiciary is framed, right? Certain levels of checks and balances in that framework. However, even most persons have still opined that the way our judiciary is structured, it still needs an increased level of framing policies that increases the independence of the judiciary. So the Nigerian judiciary still is not still a standard, you know, for what is considered an independent judiciary in the context of global standards, as it were. And we've seen instances, for example, where a president, you know, somewhat instigates the removal of a Supreme Court judge. But that's by the wayside. Now, in terms of INEC, as it were, when we talk about the thing is important. You see, for INEC's job is not that of the judiciary's job is a daily job. It's an everyday job. The job of INEC in that sense is an everyday job, but more critical towards elections. And you see, if, for example, in terms of finance, there is no provision for, you know, certain statutory financing, that is independent of the whims and caprices of the executive budget and the like, you might have a situation where there is a delay of funding. We've seen in some instances where right, and INEC starts complaining that they don't have money to do this and do that. So, for example, when we talk about standards, for example, in terms of solution, nothing stops INEC from ensuring that from onset, when a person becomes 18, they start getting access to their voter's card even by applying. Let's say, okay, we don't have the data for INEC to work with, which is generally a national problem, right? A country that has not had census and then 10 years or more than 12 plus years now. But the point there is the fact that if INEC had the funding statutorily that it needs and not depend on the whims and the flow, the vicissitudes of how funding comes from the executive, then it might have capacity to plan ahead, right? And as such, may be able to then come up with approaches that can ensure that people start registering for their voters card early on, rather than this fire brigade approach to it, And because usually the challenge is not just about, the elections, right? You can put in beavers in place and the likes, but the challenge is systematic frameworks around the electioneering process that does not allow a Nigerian fully express their rights to a democracy. Those are the core challenges that we should deal with, right? And so that's one key thing and so in that context, that's why financing is important. Now, if you even come to the beavers itself, right, there had been perceptions of technical glitches and manpower challenge with it. And you know that the elections that happened were state elections. National elections will be across 36 states with the FCT, 37. All happening at the same time, right, for different offices. And a week afterwards or so, there's another election, or 2 weeks afterwards. And so the enormity of challenge that INEC is going to face will be much more increased. And so that's why I mentioned that it is very important that the INEC chairman does not transcend the realm of confidence into overconfidence, because that itself can be catastrophic, right? But when the INEC chairman understands that, yes, we've done this, but what are the challenges there? For example, I feel that if INEC has the funding issued, immediately after every election, they should commission research, right? Call on university dons, political scientists to write in proposals for research into understudying the faults of the previous elections, right? And then using those evidence-driven conclusions to drive future elections. But that is not necessarily happening with INEC in that sense. So those are core issues I think we need to look at beyond just elections itself, but post-election and pre-elections. Thank you.
Wow, I feel like calling you Dr. Timmy, yeah, or Professor Timmy. Thank you very much for your comments. So the second point I wanted to make earlier, when you made the first comment, your commentary at the beginning, in addressing what you've called overconfidence, and you said, okay, just 2 tests, states cannot be used to make such an assertive, such a strong assertion that, it's over. Devil's advocate, I'm saying, what if INEC has done some things that were not done before even this test states he referred to? The elections were done. What if there's something in the pipeline or something they've done that by February 2023, his assertion will not be a case of overconfidence? Is there something you think has been done or is being done to get to us to that point. But before you answer, let me call the founder of Workplace Women, Mrs. Kelechi Charles Omba, to make a comment or ask a question. I think she wants to shake tables here, so let's welcome her. She's a table shaker, you know.
Oh my God, thank you very much, Chinwe. This has been an interesting conversation. A big thank you to Timmy and John. I hear you and I hear you clearly. I just wanted to take it off from where Timmy got to. He had made a reference to the BVAS, the Bimodal Voters Accreditation System. And I have a very simple question. A governor has been indicted. People came out clearly. So let's bring this home. Let's bring this home to roost. The governor was indicted openly to having begun what you would call rigging, just like the layman would understand it. Many of us on this platform are not lawyers, so we may not totally understand all the nitty-gritty like you have been explaining, but in clear layman terms, what we do know is anything you do, to manipulate, to change the scores, to do ojoro is the street language, is what you would term rigging. And then this man has been indicted in the open to have had people registered, pre-registered. I want us to talk about that. And I'm very glad I see Ambassador has been enabled. Very, very grateful, sir, that you're enabled. And then anyone can take this question in particular. So this has been done already, meaning that as many of us agitating, many of us are in the voters education space, many of us are in the good governance space, a lot of people are doing different things to ensure that Nigeria becomes the nation that we all look forward to having. And then, you get demoralized on the other end when you get to know that the manipulations have already begun. And this man has been indicted in the open. The question is, as we go to the polls in 2023, what can we do? How do we get to know that when we come and we have the first person come to vote, that indeed that is the first person and not the 557th person? What exactly do we need to do as a people? What does the judiciary need to do? Which agency? What does and this is us really. I like the way Timmy had put it. He had talked about overconfidence. I'd rather say maybe naivety. Probably it would be naive of us to say, oh no, INEC, they can't do that. So let's just say that is the truth. I haven't seen people confront him. I haven't seen him come out to say no, that allegation is not true. Like the typical Nigeria populace that we are, everyone just carried on as though nothing happened. And this is something that has the capacity to change not just the election turnout, the election turnout, to change the voters turnout, to change the election results, to manipulate the entire destiny of the nation. I mean, it has ripple effects. It's important that we bring this home. It's important that we address this on this platform. And I'd really like to hear from, maybe we need to start with Ambassador if he has a response to this question, since he hasn't spoken at all. But Chinwe, I'd leave that to you. Thank you very much.
Table shaker, Kelechi Omba. Thank you for that, bringing that up, because really it's very practical. And let me just read out something that was said about the governor of Imo State, Senator Hope Uzodinma. He's been accused of magically falsifying the number of registered voters in his ward from 6,000 to 46,000 in what is dubbed as Omuma magic at the 46 polling units for Omuma ward in the state. This is really, really serious. A serious accusation, and like you said, Kelechi, that he has not denied this. And this is ahead of the 2023 general elections. So it kind of like makes a mockery of what the INEC chairman has said, that gone are the days of rigging. And then you have someone who says who has been accused of, doing some magic around the numbers. And this is not new. It's something that's been happening, but this one has come to the fore ahead of the election. So, Ambassador, over to you regarding Kelechi's question and other points you've made so far. Thank you.
Well, I want to appreciate this close-knit group of elites in this discussion. My name is Ambassador Dr. Oamero Fideve. I'm a military veteran. I'm the National Secretary for Retired Members of Nigerian Armed Forces and the Director Media Coalition of Concerned Military Veterans. Maybe you just saw the last protest where we shut down the Ministry of Defense asking for the rights of military veterans in Nigeria. Now, not to take too much time introducing, because network is the one I will go and hold responsible now for taking my time. I would like to say, to jump into the midst of my discussion, that we lack strategy. One of the things I have deployed in the way I run my business, I have like 5 companies running now, with over the country and outside of the country. It is strategy. See, all these things me and Casey and everybody have spoken about, it dwells on the implementation of strategy. There are two sets of people in Nigeria. Those that want good governance and those that don't want good governance. There are those that don't want good governance because they have not prepared themselves for an environment of good governance. There are people that I meet, we travel abroad together, and they are not comfortable with the structured system. So people exist that don't want good governance. So we must understand that fact. And these people that don't want good governance, they are not, quote and unquote, as academically and intellectually inclined like those that want good governance. But in their crude resources, they have been able to make the system convenient for crude resource persons. So you can now see where an area boy has more power than the DPO. In the area boy can call the DPO and say those people that were locked up should be released. Now, because his own channel is channeled from his area where he is to the governor's office, where they send in their daily returns and as a source of resource. But it's a crude source of resource put in place to help to manipulate the paraphernalia of governance and electoral processes to favor those that enjoy that kind of governance. So we cannot remove ourselves from the fact that the elite, they articulate those that want steady, stable, structured governance, they stay away from that displacing the crude source. Now, if you want to do that, you need strategy. There were strategies that I used many years ago when I left the army, and I saw that there was need to help a lot of people. I joined some NGO, I gave money to NGOs, and I discovered that the NGO is obstructing the money sent in to help the children. So what I do, I took 2 or 3 of them, assisted those 2 or 3 till they graduate, and I tell them you will take one when you start working. I help them get a job. They go back and take one more person, pay for primary school, secondary school, it's not expensive. So everybody has somebody he's carrying along. So the lines just started getting longer, and people that start calling me daddy are not even people I gave birth to. So in Nigeria, we must begin to agree to put certain persons in governance, not per se governance, but in structures that can manipulate governance. If you look at how we structure the INEC, for an example, I like the way Tunisians assess and this other guy here, John. The governance system must have a system that places the governance. And one of it is the INEC. The other of it is who is in charge in the hierarchy of command and control from Aso Rock to place an INEC here and to put people in strategic offices in INEC. Why are we sitting back when we know that INEC has a major role to execute the electoral process to bring out a winner that will govern us for the next 4 years? Then the other area we need to look at is the judiciary. The judiciary also has the capacity to say, INEC, what are you doing? Your eye in the INEC is not independent, and draw it to order. The judiciary has that capacity. How many of us have sat down and looked at that strategy to say, hey, election is coming in 4 years' time? But what we do is Maybe now they are saying they have cleared the road for voting and everybody is ready to campaign. Sorry. Everybody wants to start campaign. And this is the time some people are making tickets. This is the time some people are appointing state campaign chairmen. No, you have a strategy. Your strategy is to displace and unseat illegality. Illegality has no regard for legality. Illegality has no regard for morality, decorum, integrity. No, they break bottles, they shoot guns, they snatch ballot boxes. So if legality wants to come in, you must strengthen the paraphernalia of legality. Now, INEC is sending a link that if you want to work for INEC, apply to this link. I called some young men together. I said, do you want to change this country? They said yes. Do you have a voter card? Some of them said no. I agree because Timi and Co have shown how it is difficult to even properly have a voter card that you can use. Why? Because of the stringent laws saying if you move from XYZ place, if you didn't capture your name properly, if you captured and you go and capture somewhere else, there are things that cognate into what keeps you out of the legality. So, okay, fine. Now they want to recruit people for INEC. Where are the youth? Where are the elders? Where are the legally placed structural interested persons to say, hey, 5 of you, apply. I want to make sure you get in. From this my own network, we'll be giving you 50,000 naira every month in addition to what INEC is paying you. We know your level of integrity and intellectual capacity is high. So please enter that place so that in the time of your accessibility to the state where decisions are taken, where the thumbprinting are done, where the other illegality in the counting and whatever is going on, you are there. You have access to the device. You have access to the boxes. You have access to those that should count. You are there. You are there to say no. And if we increase the numbers of those that would say no, we are increasing the opportunities to unseat illegality. So if those ones are even being threatened, they will send you the feedback are threatened. Our lives are threatened. By who? Then legality will go for those ones that are seated there to unseat legality. So all of those areas we need to look at. Then finally, before I take too much time, the last thing that we need to understand is there are security agencies that also have access to places, platforms that legality is thrown out. The DSS, the EFCC can see when the heat comes and financial movements are done. The banks, our bankers, they see when monies are moved for truncating electoral processes. It's quiet. It's their cabal. They are making it. They are getting salary, buying new cars that they cannot drive because of insecurity. The army is called in to intimidate the police in some areas that the federal might need to be put if the ruling party is interested in truncating anything. It calls the army. So where are the people that want to approach those agencies? You can only use the veterans from those agencies to approach the agencies, the people that served in those agencies before. Oga, this area commander, he go fit do yawa here. What do you think we should do? Don't worry, I'll go and see him. He pays a courtesy visit. Ogata, you were my instructor in so and so school. Yes, I know you now. You are doing well, but there's going to be something here, and this is my community. What can you do to ensure that the necessities of the agency's participation are displayed positively? What can you do to ensure that you don't allow yourself to be compromised? What can you do to deploy your men properly to contend with all the areas of breaches, proposed and assumed breaches? Immediately you can improve the agency. You begin to have a way. Thank you for
Wow. Ambassador, you said so much, and I can't even summarize because I mean all the points you've made are so clear. So far, we've painted the real picture of how it is in Nigeria, and like you said, we need strategy. We need to displace illegality. Displacing illegality requires people. So those that don't want to move Nigeria forward, those that don't even want the right thing to be done, there are many. We now need to bring an army of change agents to start displacing these people one after the other. The question is, I mean, if you look at Nigeria, it looks like we've been in this crisis forever. And then you have said something, Timmy has said something, John has said something, and even Ifeanyi Chukwu in the comments, I mean, these suggestions, are there things we can implement before the 2023 elections? And like Kelechi said, a case in point, someone has magically changed 6,000 to 46,000 ahead of 2023 elections. Then our INEC chair is saying, oh, gone are the days of rigging. I'm just paraphrasing. Are these solutions, is there something we can do before the 2023 elections? How can we do this, and how quickly, who's supposed to do it? Because from what everyone has said, there's a problem with the structure, there's a problem with the individuals, there's a problem with, Nigerians, from the government to individuals to communities. There's a problem with orientation, there's a problem with illiteracy, there's a problem everywhere. And all of you have also mentioned the judiciary, so that we're not just talking about INEC being lacking the eye in INEC, right? Or not being free. We're also saying the judiciary, there's a problem, the police, there's a problem, even the banks, like you mentioned, Ambassador. So my question as we round up, is what can we do short term so that the 2023 elections will be a different story from previous years? Or have we reached a stage where it's like, this solution is long term, it's going to take us another 20-30 years, we're just starting, but we're not hopeful that anything can change by 2023? So let me hear from John. So John, please make a comment, and after that we'll have Timmy, and we'll come back to Ambassador regarding what can we do in the short term. We are in October 2022. Elections come up in a few months. What can be done quickly to change this issue about rigging? Thank you.
Well, thank you so much. Once again, unfortunately, there is nothing that we can compel INEC to do. Whatever INEC would do has been written in the Constitution and also in the Electoral Act. The rest is domiciled with us, the electorates, and the rest of the citizen is for us to up the game. A saying says, if a squirrel continue to run, or can't place the saying very properly, or if the bird continue to fly without catching, the hunter will continue to shoot without stopping. So we have awoken. We have really, really awoken. If you can see, and of course everyone saw and is seeing that the youth have really, really awoken. And I'm not really going to be taking this to the obedient movement, but it's just a case study that the youth have really, really awoken on the aspect. We've said we are tired, and really, really, really we are tired. So, and one of the things that made us to rise up from our slumbers is the Electoral Act. We so much believe in this Electoral Act, this recent one that is in place. So we so much believe that on the technology, but we would not leave that to INEC alone. Civil society organizations, CSOs, they are really, really doing great job. I promise you. They are really, really trying. organizations
Yeah,
like
John, sorry, because of time. Thank you so much for your comments. But if you're going to say number 1, number 2, number 3, people, don't just wait for INEC, don't just wait for the government, do 1, 2, 3. And once you say it, I'd also like to see you post it on social media and make it go viral. That these are your suggestions for individuals to do. Mr. A, Mr. B, chief this, chief that, do this, that, and then we can see whether 2023 will be better. Thank you, John.
All right. Yeah, my suggestion would be that the CSOs should continue doing what they are doing. They are really, really doing very good. Organizations like Yaga Africa, they went in partnership. They are in partnership with Channels Television, and you see what is happening during elections. It's being transmitted. You see the dimension, the voting system. You see the counting. So that is really, really very, very remarkable. So on our own part, we have to be the foot soldiers, and those that are very knowledgeable in technology should also up the game. Like me and some of my friends, we are planning to come up with an app called Mobilize. So we mobilize the app to also checkmate INEC. So and the people, the electorates don't vote and go and sit down. When during elections, you vote and ensure your vote count. You count you be sure that your vote is counted.
You
and
monitor.
Yeah, you monitor. Yeah, thank you for that. And it's being transmitted. So I think that is it. That would be it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, John. So everybody should have personal voters' responsibility, where I know that beyond getting registered and accredited, going out to vote, it doesn't end there. It would be nice to have a one-pager that we can share with everyone. And it's interesting to hear about this app you mentioned, and I look forward to hearing more about Mobilize. Thank you, John. So, Timmy,
yes, please. Thank you so much. Thank you, John, for being an apostle. Abi, in that context, well, I would say that for INEC, I want to just focus on INEC this time and then bring in the people, into it. So for INEC, the thing is that there's been a lot of challenges already, yes, with the previous approach of trying to get people registered and those who needed to also get their voters card transferred and all that stage has passed. The stage that INEC is in right now is the stage of ensuring that those who have registered, the millions, get their voters card. That's the first stage. If INEC wants to really beat its chest and say it's done its work, that's the first one. The second one has to do with the context of the election itself, right? So for the first one, to a large extent, right, there has been allegations that cards, are found littered and people that are trying to get their cards have not been able to get their cards. That's a challenge. But INEC can actually quickly deal with those challenges by ensuring that there's a reason INEC got people's phone numbers, email address, and all those things. Right, those data should be put to good use. Send text messages, emails, to people. Partner with telcos. I'm sure some telcos will even want to do it as part of, a CSR initiative for a free and fair election. And that's where INEC needs to, because I've seen a particular key company, one of the top 4 companies in the world, coming, that is established in Nigeria. I don't want to mention their name, seeking to partner with INEC to help their voters' education and transparency process. And INEC officials were not available because I was key in brokering that, partnership. Funny enough, the others, the Ministry of Communication was available, had a meeting with the minister and all that. But the INEC chairman and the INEC head of voters education was nowhere to be found for weeks, and we're in Abuja after sending letters and talking to them about the possibility of such partnership on phone. And so those are core. You see, INEC needs to explore partnerships, for example, with telcos, partnerships with, for example, nothing stops INEC from saying, look, why not partner with NIPOST? Okay, NIPOST is a federal government agency, and give people the option.
Sorry, because of time. Are these things that can happen within a few weeks?
Oh, yes.
And are these things that you are going to push to happen ahead of the 2020?
Well, personally, I cannot push it as a person, right? We have to collectively push it, as people. However, policy making and policy influencing is a different ball game, largely from digital influencing or using. It's a different ball game. Having worked with policymakers, but the point is that what we're trying to do here is to raise the bar of consciousness as to possibilities. When you raise the bar of consciousness as to possibilities, it increases the capacity for people and civil society groups to drive advocacy, and we don't have a lot of policy entrepreneurs here who can then take such advocacy to a policy level. That's a core challenge. However, like I said earlier, it's possible for INEC in a few weeks to partner with NIPOST to the effect that you have people's addresses and the likes, to the effect that if you want NIPOST to deliver your voter's card to you, you pay a certain token. That's revenue generation. There are people in their offices, right, who may not be available at the time where delivery, but because they cannot go to INEC offices on the weekdays because of 9 to 5 work. But they would want to take that option to say, oh, let me pay a small token, right, for my stuff to be delivered to me. Those are some of the
part of the solution is increasing people's ability to exercise their conscience.
Yes, that's the key part. Then the election itself proper, right? Because we talked about two parts. First is that, and then second, election proper. INEC needs to develop a working SOP. The situation where in the previous Oh yes. What does it take to develop a standard procedure that is made public? And the reason why I'm saying this is this.
And implemented. We're having the resources, the people.
An SOP is not hard. If I have the time, I'll develop an SOP for INEC. What does it take?
You will have the time.
Statement of purpose is not. Those in the non-profit space know that SOPs are not. Look, the truth about it, statement of practice. Look, for example, what happens, you anticipate issues with the previous election, the two elections that is giving INEC the confidence to say what they said, right? There are discoveries that there were discrimination in terms of the adoption of incidence form, right? When the beavers break down, right? So if certain things happen, anticipate them. This is the standard procedure of operation, right? And then start to drive information about the standard procedure of operation, such that an average person who goes to and realizes this thing happens is also aware that this is the standard position of operation. Because if we don't do that, we leave room for discretion at the polling units. And when there's discretion, manipulation comes in. So let me just stop at that. It's a whole beehive. Thank you.
Yeah, there's a lot in it. I can sense that there's so much that you would have loved to say, and time is not permitting us. Thank you very much. And I'll just reiterate your definition of rigging or electoral fraud. You said it's thwarting the will of the voters, more like just killing someone's ability to make a choice. That's what it really is. And I think that it has to stop, really. And it does not seem that Nigeria is in that space to confidently say, like the INEC chairman, that there shall be no rigging in 2023 or gone are the days of rigging. It's a sad and sorry state. We seem to be in a crisis situation, which is not new. But I want to believe that some changes can be made, and all our speakers have made that point, that individuals have a role to play. Each of us has a role to play. And one other thing that's come out from this discussion is advocacy, communication. I mean, just pass on the information, create the awareness, kind of like convert people from the laid back populists to the very determined change agents that can, turn around the situation and stop, rigging in Nigeria. So we have someone with us, Ken Keng. Could you, unmute yourself, introduce yourself, and make your comments as we round up. And please note that if this goes off, it's not because Workplace Women has turned it off. It might just be Twitter telling us to go to bed. Okay? So Ken, please unmute yourself and please make your comments. Thank you.
Good evening, guys. Hello, everyone. My name is Ken Ati. What am I? I work in peace building and conflict resolution. I've been unable to solve some of my immediate conflicts, but I'm going to perfect on them. I'm Benue State publicity, yes. That's what's up. Our work will also have challenges in our work. Like a banker may not be the best person to save his money. You may need someone else to save your money for you, but you could go out marketing the thing. So that's where we are. The reality dawns once in a while. So I love to share my position as I am Benue State Publicity Secretary of the Labour Party. I am obedient 101,000%.
Okay, great to meet you, Ken. We're non-partisan in Workplace Women, so please just make your comments. Yeah, thank you very much. Thanks.
So, I'm one of those optimists who has absolute faith in INEC of today. We have seen, and let me say this quickly, of elections from 1999 to date. It is this same Nigeria that we had elections in 1999. Nobody can even attest to the freedom or fairness of that election, because it was like, hello, hi, democracy is coming, let's do something and get a president and move ahead. It was done. In 2003, we saw something more of a process that had a billion challenges. By 2007, we had a president who came out to say, the election that brought me into power is not free and fair. And he commenced the process of having an electoral act. Now, if you look at the way elections have grown in this country, you will discover that we have moved from ballot paper fraud, snatching ballot paper, to result sheet doctoring. We have moved from doctoring result sheets to card reader fraud. We have moved from card reader fraud now to vote buying. That is to give you a glimpse into the credibility of the process as it grows. So rigging election now is no longer the process dependent, it is people dependent. So the process is becoming more and more, come on forward, sorry. The process is now becoming more and more, I'm driving.
Can you imagine that you're in Lagos?
I'm driving, ironically, I'm in far away Jalingo, Taraba State, northeast Nigeria.
Oh, and they're crazy on the road like that.
Yes, okay. I'm more than 1,000 kilometers away from my base. But I drove here. So
okay. So you can wrap up your comments. Thank you, Ken.
So the process is becoming more and more credible, and the consequences of rigging is now moving from the process to the people. It is now dependent on the people. And very soon, if vote buying cannot work, they'll start kidnapping people and tying their thumbs to other thumbs to rig the process. That is to tell you that INEC has done quite some job. And I am more and more confident. If you understand what BVAS is, bimodal voter accreditation system, 2 modes, that is what is going to happen. And I am confident that 2023 election will be way more free and fair, and the process will be more antiseptic. I thank you most sincerely.
Thank you, Ken, for bringing that, vote of confidence and hope that, by February, yes, a ray of hope, because really, we're not where we used to be. Yeah, we're far from where we're supposed to be, but we're moving, and I like that vote of confidence. Ambassador, we're rounding up, but you can just make a comment in 1 minute if you don't mind, and then we wrap up for the day. What it means is that this topic cannot be exhausted today. What I encourage everyone to do is, get on Twitter, get on Instagram, get whatever platform you have, and just share what you think would be solutions, practical solutions that you think our friends, families, and people around us can actually apply, because we cannot just wait for only INEC. We all have a part to play to ensure that elections 2023 and beyond are free and fair. So, Ambassador, could you just make your concluding comments, and then we'll wrap up? Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Chinwe. Now, if you will agree with me, there is a sentence that has been repeating itself since we came on air, and that sentence is that the will of the people must be allowed to prevail. So, if we take that sentence to the different platforms that I'm showing you right now, the will of the people must be allowed to prevail in community resilience. Every community now should build resilience against truncating the will of the people. The communities can generate ideas on how to curb the violence. The communities can generate ideas on how to restrict unnecessary intimidation of the INEC officials. So the community must generate resilience and say the will of the people must prevail. Whoever candidate you are voting for, let it be your will, and you are not correct. If you look at the academics here, the ICANN, Institute of Accountants, the Nigerian Bar Association, the Nigerian Medical Association, in all of those academia platforms, they must sit down together and agree that in our capacity, what is our contribution to insist that the will of the people must exist. There is a banker's house. There are bankers forums also where they meet together, so the will of the people. Now, if you look at the media also, all these social media influencers that we talked about, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, wherever you find yourself and you have influence, the will of the people should become the slogan. You begin to influence, because what we see every day and every time, what we hear every day and every time begins to design our mental capture. So the will of the people must prevail. And that is what I speak this night.
Thank you, Ambassador. The will of the people must prevail. We must push out the message. The slogans have to be there. Everyone should come up with our workplace women. We'll post it on Twitter, Instagram, and other platforms. We'll create the hashtag, and we'll continue the movement from this conversation. So, if Ichuku couldn't really speak to us, but I read out his initial comments, and he's also said to stop rigging, we must say no to money politics. I totally agree with you, Ichuku. So I must thank all our speakers, Ambassador Owamen, Timi Olagunju, John, Ichuku, who join us with comments, and Ken. Thank you very much for joining us. Everyone who has joined us, thank you very much. Thanks to the convener of Workplace Women and the entire Workplace Women team, all our friends who have joined us, and those that would listen to the recording later. So this is The Seat, brought to you by Workplace Women. Today we discussed rigging, mitigating electoral process manipulation, and the question is, are we at a point in Nigeria where we can say there shall be no electoral fraud in the next elections? So I think we're getting to a place where the answer is not yes and is not no. We're in between. So what we're saying is, with what has been put in place, we believe that there's more to do before February 2023 to get to the point where we can confidently say elections are not being rigged. So we give kudos to INEC for what has been done so far, and other individuals and communities. Yeah, but there's still a lot to be done. And we're very aware that there are people that don't want Nigeria to move forward. There are people whose goal is to ensure that election is not free and fair. Whatever their reason is, there are some people, those of us here and some other people who are change agents that want to make sure that Nigeria gets better, that want to make sure that elections 2023 and beyond are free and fair. And therefore, we will do what we need to do. We'll go out there, we'll speak the message, say what needs to be said and do what needs to be done. Most of all, we'll make sure that we have our voters card and we go out there to vote as well. So thank you everyone for joining us in this seat. Do have a wonderful rest of the week, and we look forward to having you next week, Thursday at 7 p.m. on Twitter Space, Workplace Women. Thank you everyone, and good night.